Welcome back to the Rule Your Pool podcast. I know I sound differently because, as you're about to hear in this episode, the microphone and mainly Microsoft Teams failed, and there was some latency issues. I wish we could have done this interview on the software that we wanted to use. Normally we can, but as you can tell, I'm just speaking into my laptop right now, which is not normal. I have ordered a new microphone. The one during this episode failed, and I'm so sorry. It crunches out during some important parts of the interview, and that's a real bummer because I can't go back and do that again. But we had a great interview with our guest today, and with that, take it away. Welcome back, everybody, to the Rule Your Pool podcast. I'm your host, Eric Knight with Orenda and Hasa, and today is another very special guest, and we talk about pool chemistry quite a bit. We may touch on it today, but today we are actually going to talk about the sport of swimming, something near and dear to my heart that shaped the direction of my life. And it all came down to a decision that I made in 2004 when our special guest today was commentating on an event called the Olympics in Athens. And that moment was what got me interested in the sport of swimming. And had that not happened, I would not be here today. It completely changed my life. And we are so honored to have not only our co-host, Jared.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And I just wanted to jump in real quick to let everybody know that Eric was not talking about me being a special guest, even though I'm not here very often. We really do have a special guest, and it's awesome to have him on this episode.
We do. We've got the voice of Olympic swimming, or as I call you, the John Madden of swimming, Rowdy Gaines. Thank you for being on the Rule Your Pool podcast.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jared.
Welcome to Rule Your Pool, the podcast by Orenda that explains and simplifies pool chemistry so that anybody, regardless of experience, can understand it. I'm your host, Eric Knight, bringing clarity to these subjects so that you can bring clarity to your water. If you're ready to rule your pool, then let's go. We're honored to have you on here. And I think most people on here, even if they don't really know swimming, if they ever have watched the Olympics, it's your voice that they're hearing. You, and I think it's Dan Hicks. Is that correct?
Yep. Dan and I are getting ready to call our 8th games together. So it's pretty cool.
8th game. So what was your first? 96?
96. Yeah.
Wow.
My first was 92 in Barcelona. But I did the triple cast back then. You're too young to remember, but it was sort of a ahead of its time cable part of pay-per-view part of the Olympics. I did that. And then over the air NBC, I started in 96 with Dan.
Wow. That's the first one I remember with Gary Hall. And it was in, Atlanta. Yeah. And there was Jeremy Lin was the breaststroker. I remember that.
Yeah. Won gold.
Yeah, just amazing history and legacy of swimming. And in part one of this episode, because we do want to get into something relevant to the audience as well, I want a little bit about your background and then how you got through the sport and then got into broadcasting.
Well, Eric, I didn't start swimming until I was 17. So I was
Me too.
In high school. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Great. Yeah. When I went out for my high school swim team, and I grew up around water all my life. I'm from Winter Haven, Florida, which is like right in the middle of the state. Grew up on a lake. My parents water skied for a place called Cypress Garden. So water is part of my DNA, and it always has been. But I didn't start swimming competitively until high school. So, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the competition part and trying to improve. I had tried out for 5 other sports before swimming and got cut in all of them. And so swimming was just next in line. And then, I didn't get cut and ended up making the team and going to Auburn a year later, and had the great fortune of making the team in 80. Didn't get to go because of a boycott.
You're talking about making the Olympic team. You made the Olympic team in 1980.
Yes. Made the team.
So how far removed were you from your starting swimming at 17 to going or making the Olympic team?
Good question, Jared. So it's funny. I broke my first world record 2.5 years after I started. I started in February of 76.
The typical trajectory of how these things work.
I mean, that is so offensively gifted. I'm like, the audience listening, you don't understand how hard that is, especially like I think it may have gotten more difficult nowadays, but not that much more difficult. Like, oh my God, 2.5 years to learn something like that.
Started, I didn't own a pair of goggles and swam like a 6-year-old, kept running into the lane line back and forth. And so, yeah, it was a little bit clumsy to get started for sure, but it accelerated from there.
How has the sport evolved in your lifetime?
Well, there are two ways really. From in the water, as you know, and you were part of that successfully, is the underwater dolphin kick. So it's really become the fifth stroke. We didn't have that. If you look up old races of me swimming, I mean, I pop up at the flags, if that, every single turn.
Mhm.
And so there was no underwater dolphin kick. So that's transformed the sport certainly to an amazing height. It's the fifth stroke, as I said. And then the flip side of that is money. Money has allowed athletes to stay in the sport. I retired in 1981, the year after, my senior year, because that's what everybody did. Mark
Mhm.
Spitz was 20, 21. John Neighbor was 20. I mean, you just retire after you finish college because there was no money in the sport. So that has allowed athletes to stay in the sport longer, which is good. It's a good thing.
Mhm.
I worked as a night clerk in a hotel for 2 years before the Olympics, so it was a little bit of a different animal back then for sure.
I would say there's a third thing that you didn't mention that has transformed it, at least in my time in the sport, and that's the proliferation of video.
Yes.
When Flow Swimming came out in '07 and '08, I had never seen what an 18-second 50 free looked like, and you could read it on results. I have no concept of what an 18-second 50 free looked like. YouTube was just getting started, and now these athletes are throwing down times that are what I would have considered impossible even when I was in college. I'm sure you wouldn't have even conceptualized a 17 in the 50 free in the '80s. I mean, could you have
Yeah.
possibly
No.
conceptualized a 17?
No.
Exactly. And so these athletes are, my theory, they're growing up from a younger age, surrounded by biomechanics studies and underwater video and things that their coaches can watch with them, and they can really dial in the sport to the level that football players and golfers have. It's really an amazing evolution that we're seeing times from, and not just times from the top, phenom athletes like Caleb or Michael or Katie. We're seeing times from the seventh and eighth and ninth place finishers that are insane.
Yeah.
Is that
It's
something, do you think that's valid?
absolutely 100% accurate. The science of swimming has dramatically changed. There was no science. I mean, Eric, dude, we would go to practice and we would all be together. My coach, Richard Quick, would say, okay, we're going, 8 200s on 3 minutes on the top, everybody ready, go. And, the breaststrokers, the sprinters, the distance, we'd all do the same thing. And now it's much more specialized. There was no science. There was no lactate testing. There was none of that. Certainly no video, but yeah, it's science has transformed the sport into something that is much more specific to your talents too. I think that's also changed, and which makes what Michael did so amazing because he was so versatile and he did so many different events. Michael Phelps, I'm talking about, that it's still pretty wild.
I
It,
think
it
I can
is.
make my comment here, and I don't think it was required, but just for the listening audience here, I am a fish out of water in this podcast because I am not a swimmer. My physique does not support me swimming whatsoever.
Don't be so hard on yourself. I saw you swim and swim across America,
And I
and you
almost
some
died because of it.
that's true, but that's why
Yeah,
I told you you had to have the floaty, and I
I
got you a
did.
pair of goggles that were not children's goggles. It was hilarious.
That's true. And that was my last time I probably actually swam like that. Um, it was for sure because I almost died and I did
It
not
was
enjoy it
it
whatsoever, but
was
it was a
so good,
challenge.
Rowdy.
Eric challenged me
Rowdy,
to
it
it.
was so good. It was so good.
I wish I would
Uh,
have seen that.
Yeah.
Man, I showed up with just my regular swim trunks and it's an open water swim. And I don't even know how it was a mile or half a mile or something. And Eric's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm going to swim." He's like,
You did have
"No."
goggles though, right?
No, well, he did. He had his son's goggles, and his son is 8 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my son likes swimming. He loves it. As a matter of fact, he is a fish in water. And
My
it's funny, we
gosh.
were sitting at the house the other day watching TV, and you were on there for the Olympic trials. And I was like, "Hey, I know that guy." And he was like, "Oh yeah, who's that?" And so we kind of had a little history lesson here. So that was pretty entertaining, and I enjoyed that. And I think he did too. But I am your layman's person here when it comes to the sport of swimming, and what you referenced earlier of, hey, the money has really transcended the sport and allowed these athletes to compete longer and make a living and do well. And I think I compare it to almost like the Tiger Woods effect, where Michael Phelps had that effect, or like that's my perception of the sport, where that's when I really dove in and it was like, man, this is awesome. This guy is just absolutely crushing the competition. And it just changed the narrative for me when it came to Summer Olympics, right? And it's
Mm.
something that my family, we love getting around the TV, watching it. We enjoy watching the Olympics when they come about. So this is awesome.
Yeah.
Jared, that's actually good that you're here then, because if Eric and I get into the weeds too much, you need to like say time out and say, okay, guys, let's get back on to where our audience knows what you're talking
Yeah, we're
about.
not talking split times and kick
No,
flips and
no, no.
dolphin
Not yet.
kicks. Those are,
Not yet.
yeah, yeah.
Let's not go down that road. That's the wrong audience to do that.
Yeah. Well, you bring something up here, and then I want to backtrack a little bit. Jared, you're absolutely right. I look at swimming this way, Rowdy. I want your opinion on it because your opinion carries a lot of weight in the sport. You've been around, I mean, you're kind of the face of the sport outside of Michael. I look at swimming in three eras: pre Phelps, Phelps, and now post Phelps. I was privileged enough to swim in the Phelps era. And I remember racing next to him in like the prelims of the ultra swim or something. And I was like, oh my God, I beat him to the 50. And then I saw his feet off the wall, meaning he dolphin kicked a body length ahead of me off the wall, just decided to start racing. And it was a very cool thing to watch the best guys like Eric Shanto and Mark Gangloff and Brendan Hansen, watching these guys at these pro swim series events that had been in the game for a long time. My old roommate, Davis Tarwater, perfect example. These guys just went about their business and they made it look so effortless. And now we're looking at a whole crop of people that I don't know pretty much anyone's names, and they're going faster times than the powerhouses of the Phelps era. So I think there's been a shift in the capabilities of the athletics component of it. There's got to be more dry land. There's got to be strength and conditioning that was different than what we had when we were in college. And I want your take on that. Do you think that that's a fair segmentation of the evolution of our sport?
I don't know, Eric. I think from a generation standpoint, you have to look from generation to generation and know that each generation is going to be bigger, stronger, faster. I don't think they're doing anything differently than what you did 20 years ago. I think what's happened is you use an example of Lawrence Taylor in football. Lawrence Taylor is perhaps the greatest defensive player in history.
Right.
He's been voted that, right? New York Giants, Super Bowl champ, everything, et cetera, et cetera. So I've talked to some current pro players, and they say he wouldn't even make an NFL football team now. It's just because it's a different human body that is out there now than it was 40 years ago and certainly 80 years ago. And you only have to look at the clock. And I think obviously what you talked about, the science of it, the stroke techniques have gotten better, the video analysis, diet, et cetera, et cetera. But it's also the human body, I think, has changed a lot. And, in 20 years, we're going to see kids go 16 in a 50 freestyle.
To my perspective on that, is it more specialized? Because I just take my realm of what I live in and my kids. I have 3 kids from 8 to 13, but when starting about now with my youngest, 8 years old, they're starting competitive baseball, football, whatever you want to call it, swimming. And it starts now, and you pretty much have to pick a specialized lane of what path you want to follow now moving forward, because you can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this for 4 years and then devote all my time to baseball and then decide you're going to go swimming. I guess you could, but you're at a severe disadvantage when you do that. And my perspective is that's why these things have changed. Because when I grew up, I played all the sports. I played everything. There wasn't a
so did I.
competitive thing. So that's my easy.
To some
definition of
degree,
that.
I think, Jared, to some degree, yes, it has become much more specialized and certainly at a younger age. But I was like you, Jared, man, I did every sport as a kid. But there's still a stat that's very important to remember. In swimming, Eric knows this, and I'm not getting in the weeds, I promise. So, audience, bear with me here for 30 seconds. In swimming, you can break records as a child, right? You can break an 11 and 12 age group record. You can be the fastest 13, 14-year-old in the country. And you can break a national record as a 10 and under. There are 10 and under national records. There's never been a 10 and under national record holder in our sport ever make the Olympic team. So the point is, it doesn't matter how good you are at 10 years old. It has no bearing on how good you are going to be later on in your life. So for me, I still take the approach you need to be a well-rounded athlete forget athletics for a second, but be well-rounded as a kid. And then, yeah, there's a certain stage that you need to get serious at it, but it's not 10 years old. I
That's a
just
great
don't
point,
believe that.
because your success is not predetermined at 10. So that's a
No,
good just
it's
mantra
not.
to live
It's
by.
not.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
that's just me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, I'm just some dumb ex-jock, so
Hey,
what do I know?
you have medals on the wall that we don't. So I'm gonna lean towards your opinion here over mine.
We make everything up on this podcast anyway. You sure you don't want to be a co-host?
Yeah, yeah.
I will say, Eric, that I am not as knowledgeable about swimming as many other swimmers, but nobody can deny my passion. That's what I think I bring, and that's one reason why I'm doing my 9th Olympic Games, is because I love swimming. Nobody loves swimming more than I do, and I bring that to the audience that doesn't know anything about swimming.
That's the key.
People are the big critics about, I don't get into the weeds of, stroke rates and tempo and splits.
That's not your role.
Dude, especially at the Olympics, nobody cares about that. They don't even know what starting blocks. They don't even know what they're called. I was just on a podcast earlier, and they go, "What's that platform that the swimmers jump off of?" I mean, that right?
Preach, buddy.
That's,
Preach.
there you go.
You're gonna
What are
love
those
the game at
flags?
the end
Why
of
are
this
those
episode.
flags out there?
Yeah.
So this is, it's not that I need to dumb it down, but I need to exude joy and the love of the sport, because I want
You need
people
me
to
to
appreciate
understand it
what they
so that
do.
I continue watching. And I
Yeah.
prefer your easy to understand. Let's just get into the swimming aspect of this instead of the weeds, because that's how I'm going to stay
No.
engaged.
You're
Absolutely.
the best that's ever done it. So thanks for that, because it got me into the sport and it got a lot of other people into the sport. Now,
Thank you.
let's move on. We just went through Olympic trials. First of all, how did you like the venue? First time swimming's ever been in a football stadium at the Indianapolis Colts
Great.
Stadium. What did you think?
It was a magical experience. It really was. And I've been to, this was my
Well, I mean, you've been to a lot of trials.
Yeah, 12th. And obviously never seen anything like it. And even Omaha in a basketball arena didn't compare to this. This was a swimming pool in an NFL football stadium. That's as simple as I could put it. And as magical as it looked on TV, it was even cooler in person, live. And I think your audience would really love the background of it all. We had a lot of our donors to Step Into Swim come, and a lot of pool people. I mean, these are the industry people, and we took them on tours behind the scenes to see how it was all put together. It was really pretty fascinating how they put this pool in a football stadium right on the top of the football field. So, yeah, it was a great moment for our sport.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't able to be there, unfortunately. I really wish I could have been there, but so many of our friends, mutual friends as well, Rob and several others, were there. And wish I could have been there, but I did attend 3 Olympic trials in Omaha, 08, 2012, and 2016. So I've seen a very cool environment. It's really hard to understate just how breathtaking it is when you walk on that deck for the first time. It's unlike any other experience I've had, and I just can't even imagine what it was like to be in Lucas Oil Stadium. So what were your takeaways from trials? What stood out? What surprised you? And what disappointed you?
What I wanted to try to get across to people that were watching an Olympic trials for the first time is how much stress these kids are under. Our country is so good in swimming, Eric, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
We have been number 1 in the world of swimming for 68 straight years. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Name another sport or country that has been that dominant for 68 years. You can't. Now, the Australians will say that they've won 2 of those 68 years because they won the gold medal count, 2 world championships, never at the Olympics, but 2. We do a 2 out of 3 system. We do gold medals, total medals, and we do a point system, which is what the World Aquatics does. They award the best country at a world championships based on points you score. And we've won at least 2 out of 3 of those, 66 out of 68 years. So anyway, I digress from the original question, but for me, the biggest surprise was how people embraced it. Instead of folding under that, I think most swimmers embraced the energy that the crowd provided. Yeah, 20, 25,000 people every night. And I think for me, I would have folded in that environment. I just can't imagine. But I think for the most part, the kids embraced it. And that was a surprise. I think the biggest disappointment was some that, I wish would have been there that didn't, because you build these relationships with some of these kids, like Lydia Jacoby. I mean, she won the gold from Alaska 4 years ago or 3 years ago and didn't make the team. She got third. The disappointment of a Jack Akins, who, nobody knows who Jack Akins is, but
Well,
he
it's so
got.
funny you say that. Our Southeastern regional manager, Sean's son, is good friends with him, and he was texting me during trials hoping he would make that team. I don't know the kid either, but I mean, the guy swam out of his mind, and
He did.
that's the heartbreaking nature of the sport.
Totally. And so that for
Yeah.
me, I was so disappointed for him. I mean, it's heartbreaking because he's third. They take two swimmers. He was third in two events, Jared, by I think it was 19 100ths of a second. He missed one by 3 100ths and another by
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I didn't even comprehend the time
right.
difference on a clock there.
And the coolest thing is you're an Olympian forever and ever, and he didn't have that moment. So now he has to wait 4 more years. It's not like a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
My favorite team, Chicago Cubs, doesn't make the World Series. They get to try again next year. Now this poor kid has to wait 4 years to have that opportunity again.
Well, won't be waiting if he's going for it. He's training now. He's probably taking a few weeks off, but he'll probably be training. And when I was on Team Elite, I had a lot of people that missed teams within 8 spots that had finaled in trials and never made it. I mean, I think Madison, I think Nick Brunelli, I think Davis Tarwater. He finally did make in 2012, but the heartbreak, the pressure that's on him. I felt it when I went to trials. I never expected to make the Olympic team. I was there to swim as fast as I could, and I did. But I didn't have the pressure, and therefore I was able to swim. And I was so happy when I hung up the goggles. I had done everything I wanted to do in the sport. Everything was good, and so many people leave the bitter taste in their mouth, and I feel for those people because I've walked that path, and it's just such a highly charged emotional meet that you can't capture with television. You have to be in the warm-up pool. You have to see the tears. You have to see the hugs with the coaches and all that stuff, and it's. For me, watching on TV, it was so different watching it and knowing I was not going to be there on day 5 of 8 because I was racing in the 50 or something like that. But I just thought it was an amazing thing. And the speed, oh my God, are these people fast? 5 or 6 guys going 47 in the 100 free is just sick. That's so fast. So
we're getting in the weeds. People don't know 47. Let's move on here.
Okay, let's move on. Thank you for bringing us back. So we're going to talk about the importance of water quality and air quality to the health and welfare of swimmers. I mean, we have lived our lives in and around pools, and so many of these athletes do, and not just the 1% of the 1% that makes trials, but all recreational swimmers, aqua aerobics, learn to swim kids, which we'll talk about with your foundation. Talk about water quality and why is that so important to the people that depend on it?
I think for obvious reasons, air quality is a lot more critical than water quality, to be honest with you. I can swim in polluted water. It's not going to change how fast I go, right? Except that air that I'm breathing from that polluted water, right? So if the air quality isn't good, you're going to be in major trouble. And we've been in meets, Eric, before where the air quality is not good and it has affected performances by far a lot more than the pool being 2 degrees colder than it needs to be. I mean, it's a critical situation. And I think fortunately with people like you and your team, I think people are starting to figure out how important air quality is, but I still go into pools and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even have asthma or any, breathing problems like that. But I was having a hard time. And I'm thinking, gosh, I'm having a hard time. Can you imagine what people that suffer through something like that must be feeling? So my wife is one, she has asthma and she'll go into a swimming pool facility and have a hard time breathing. And so you can imagine a kid getting up on the blocks trying to perform at his best or her best and not being able to have, and I don't think it's rocket science, but what do I know?
Well, it is an engineering challenge, and that's a large part of what I do outside of
but you've
just
done
Orenda
it,
chemistry. It is completely possible. And if those of you listening have kids or you go to an indoor pool that struggles with air quality, is an answer, reach out to me. It can be resolved. It can just be very expensive to do it. It could require a modification to HVAC systems. It can require supplementing your chlorine. And where we come in on this, we try to avoid talking about products. The main thing that we do that makes a noticeable impact, and I knew this as a swimmer long before I met Orenda, was our enzyme. When they treated the back warm-up pool at Charlotte Ultra Swim, you know what I'm talking about, that 4-lane pool at Charlotte Ultra Swim, 90,000 gallons, 850 swimmers over 5 days. By the end of it, you couldn't see the tide line 3 feet below your face. And when they treated that with enzymes, that water on the last day of that meet was better than the 50-meter pool with 1 million gallons and 8 people racing at a time. It was astounding. And that was before I worked for Orenda. That's actually what got my attention to say, so you could fix this. I want to work with this company. Whatever that did was insanely good. Even some events, I'm not going to say what they are. Some events that you commented, I'm watching online in the live stream or whatever. They get that water is so cloudy, I can't see across it. I can't see lanes 7 and 8 underwater. That shouldn't happen. We can deliver world-class water quality. It can be done. And Jared, just because I feel bad you haven't said anything, do you have anything to add?
I was actually flipping through my phone to try to find a picture that Harold actually took many years ago when we had my son's birthday party at an auditorium. And there is nothing worse than when you walk in there. Number one, the smell just hits you in the face and it's overwhelming,
Right.
which, okay, people tolerate. That's just, I guess, it doesn't have to be part of it, but that's usually what we do. But then after the party, everything's swimming, and there's a picture of him where his whole face is red, his eyes are red, his mucous membranes are just sore, and like he's in pain, it looks like, because he is. It's like that shouldn't be the case. And there's just a lot of things that's unfortunate for being in the water, and because the kids love it. My kids love being in the water
Right.
and it's enjoyable. So let's try to make it as enjoyable as we possibly can. And that's ultimately what all of our goal is here is
Right.
let's enjoy the water.
One of the best pool designers in the world that I know of, you probably know him, Steve Crocker from Water Technology. He used to hold the world record in the 50 free. And Steve Crocker said that the air quality problem for swimmers is like the concussion problem for football. It's getting to a point where parents don't want their kids exposed to that long term, just like they don't want their kids exposed to the concussion risk long term in football. And it could be a big problem for our sport. And part of what we do here on this podcast, while we don't talk about air quality much, because most of our audience is in the residential space, we talk a lot about water quality, about keeping water safe, clean, clear, and all that other stuff. And if you do have better water quality, the air is going to be better. Is it going to be fixed completely? Maybe not, because there's air physics involved and HVAC considerations. But I think we need to get to a point in our industry in general where we no longer tolerate designing facilities that don't factor in the air quality problem. It should be a standard of care. We're not quite there yet.
I would assume, again, I don't know what I'm talking about with this, but if the water quality is good, then I'm assuming that the air quality would follow. I know there's certain things that you still have to do, but it all starts with water quality. And you're right. And I don't care if it is residential or not. I mean, you want that water quality to be good in a residential situation as well. We had a screened in porch in our pool, in Florida, and, that would affect the air quality of the pool. If our chlorine wasn't right, even in an open air type situation, that screened in porch still caused poor air quality.
Well, even outside of air quality, who wants to jump into a greasy, cloudy pool? That doesn't look refreshing. I want to jump into clear, sparkling, clean water. And
Exactly.
there's a huge difference. So let's move on from this and let's get into your foundation, Step Into Swim. Tell us about that because we have a growing audience here. Perhaps there are people here that want to get behind what you're doing because I think it's awesome. Tell us about Step Into Swim.
Thanks, Eric. I have been with the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance for the last 3.5 years, and their spiritual mission or their philanthropic mission is called Step Into Swim. So basically, it's a foundation part of PHTA in which we raise money through primarily this industry, through primarily your audience. And we take that money, 100% of it, and we funnel it right back out to swimming lesson providers around the country to teach kids how to swim. Because drowning, as you know, is a real problem in our country. Part of what we try to do is educate people, and it's the number one cause of death in children ages 1 to 4. It's the number 2 cause children between 5 and 14. So it is a problem, but we found the cure. I mean, it's just that simple. We found the cure, and the cure is swim lessons. Obviously, barriers and all of that, very important. But what we try to do is if a child falls in the water, we're not trying to create a Michael Phelps. All I want that kid to do is they fall in the water, they can turn over and float on their back. Because a kid is usually missing from their parent from about 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So it's not long, but a child can drown in as little as 30 seconds. So it's like that. And most drownings happen in front of adults because they're not paying attention. It breaks my heart when I read or hear about a child drowning, and I get a Google alert when a child drowns. And I get 4 or 5 a day because I constantly want to be reminded. Now, I will say when I first started talking about this to this industry that's listening, they didn't want to hear anything about it.
Really?
Drowning? Oh, no, that's not good for business. No, thank you. See you later. Bye-bye. But I think as time has gone on, they've understood that this is something that we need to do. We need to be good stewards of our community. We need to be able to help the next generation because forget about the fact that it's the right thing to do. Dude, it's not good for business. Drowning is not good for your business, right? Because it not only affects that family, it can affect an entire community. I know families that have had children drown that they just shut their pool down. They go, we're done. Absolutely. Drain
I
it,
can't blame
whatever it
them.
is. Right. Because I don't know about you guys. You talked a little bit about it, Jared, but the greatest memories I have as a child, as a father, and as a grandfather now is around water, right?
We
Being
have a pool
around
in
the
my
swimming
backyard,
pool,
and it's summertime.
right?
We're using the swimming pool all the time. It's a place of gathering. We enjoy it. The kids love being in the water. And to your point, for those of you that don't know, Rowdy's here talking the talk, but he also walks the walk. Eric and I see him at trade shows. He's on the show floor. He's talking to people, constantly bringing awareness to something that he obviously believes in, we believe in. And it's a great value that we all need to make sure we instill into the children. My children went through swim lessons, the infant swim rescue, where sometimes it's painful to watch, where
It is
throw a,
6
you throw a
weeks,
kid in the water
throw
and
them in the
you're like,
water.
they're going to drown because they're flailing, they're doing their thing, and it's a lot of anxiety. But you know what? The end result is I'm comfortable, or I was comfortable, that if we were around water, which we were all the time, I'm in the business. If they fell in, they could turn over on their back, like you're saying, and they could get to the edge of the pool, and that's it.
That's all you want. That's all you want. So the industry really has done a great job in supporting us. The first year, I think I raised, but not me. It's just not me. It's a team. We raised about 300,000, and this year, 6 months in, we're already over 1 million.
Wow.
So yeah, so we think we're going to get up to about 1.5 million, $2 million. And the cool thing, one last thing on this is our board at PHTA matches dollar for dollar what we raise at Step in the Swim. So that $1 million is really $2 million right now. So we're going to be able to help save a lot of lives. That's for sure.
We've seen you at the big heritage concerts at 2 of the shows, and boy, do they raise money when we're about to watch Leonard Skinner play. And it's really cool. You and Rob Butcher, a mutual friend of ours who has Swim Across America,
Across America, who
another
I'm an
charity.
ambassador of. I've been
Yeah,
involved with them for 40 years, dude. I
yeah,
started with them when it was Swim Across the Sound in 1986. So I
yeah.
love Swim Across America. I love what Rob Butcher has been able to do with that. And I don't really care if it's Step in the Swim. It can be whatever water safety initiative you have in
Right.
your area, but get
Well, there's
involved with helping.
Cullen was with Make Splash for a long time with USA Swimming. I know
Yes,
you were involved in that. And
absolutely. I still am.
yeah,
I love the USA Swimming Foundation. On the board of Zach Foundation. I'm on the board at Asphalt Green, which has their big swim that helps bring in kids for swim lessons. I believe in what we're doing with Step in the Swim, but the most important thing I want to do is save lives. And I don't really care how you do it, but get involved one way or the other in
well,
the
I think that's
community.
that's an admirable thing because you're going through not just as a swimmer, but now you're paying it forward, so to speak. And I contribute to Swim Across America. I race every year. Not that I do well. I don't. I also don't care. But I did lap Jared. And I think that's important that everybody needs to know. I did lap Jared and I was doing a mile. He was doing half a mile. It was really fun for me, not for him. But Jared, kudos to that. But Rob has been on this podcast. He was on episode 61. So listeners,
cool.
Yeah, if you want to go back to episode 61 and hear about Swim Across America, that's another great charity for cancer research.
Yeah.
I do want to wrap up here in the interest of your time, because I know you're
on that note, just so our listeners, if somebody wants to contribute to Step Into Swim, how can they do that?
That's exactly what I was about to ask.
Yeah, very, very easy. Stepintoswim.org. It just says get involved, and you can make a donation there. You can email me, rgaines@phta.org, and you want to know more about it and before you start to donate, no problem. If you want to try to help a lesson provider in your community, you can email me, rgaines@phta.org, and I can help you with getting funding to a local, lesson provider in your area too. We have a lot of great support through a lot of huge companies in this industry that have helped us. And I'm not going to go through each one because then I'd be unfair to others. But rest assured, there are a lot of people like Heritage that have made a huge impact on what we're doing.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
I want to end on a game, and I'm going to ask each of you 5 questions. Rowdy, I'm going to ask you 5 pool care questions. And I'm going to ask Jared 5 competitive swimming questions. And whoever answers more correctly is going to win. You guys up for the challenge?
Yeah, but I'm
right.
going to lose.
I'm going to start with Jared. I'm going to ask Jared the questions, and whatever he answers, we'll be surprised if he gets any right. But then I'm going to ask you the same question. So listen to the questions, Rowdy, because you're probably going to know all 5 of these swimming ones. So here's
no,
not
Jared. Necessarily, but go ahead.
Well, let's see. So here's the swimming questions for Jared. Jared, how far from the wall is a swimmer allowed to dolphin kick underwater before getting disqualified? Meaning, how far can they go before they have to break the surface off each fall?
There are a little multiple choice in here, maybe?
Eric? No. I got this. This is in my wheelhouse. Let's see. I'm going to guess that maybe a pool is 25 meters in length. So let's just say 14.
Well, it's actually
You're pretty close, dude. That's actually 14 probably is right. Technically it's 15, but yeah, you're pretty good.
We live in
so close.
I can't hear. Oh yeah,
Eric,
you're close.
you chopped up.
Oh, I chopped up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
My mic got. I'm going to give it to you, even though it's wrong, because you do pretty much have to break the surface there, but legally it's 15 meters. So
I'll take the win. Thank you.
Okay, Jared, number 2. How long is an Olympic-sized pool?
Oof. I'm always bad at the perception of an Olympic-sized pool because I go to my natatorium or whatever, and it's okay. That looks kind of small, but maybe.
That's why I'm asking, because I get customers who call us on the Orenda helpline. They say, "Well, it's an Olympic pool." I'm like, "Really?"
I'm going to go 50 meters.
50
That's
meters.
Right.
Hey, oh my gosh, you got one. All right.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
A bonus question for Rowdy. Bonus question. According to FINA regulations, how deep must it be? Minimum.
Oh, you're asking me?
As a bonus, do you know how deep it is according to FINA regulations?
I would assume it's got to be 2 meters.
Bingo, 2 meters. You got it. All right. Number 3, Jared. Which 2 strokes require touching the wall with both hands simultaneously?
Oh, yeah. This is easy.
Look at that face.
Breaststroke?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's 1.
Yes.
Backstroke.
Nope.
Whoa.
What's the other one, Rowdy?
Well, what are do you know the other 2 strokes, Jared?
Freestyle.
Yeah.
I'm going to go butterfly.
Yeah. So think about it, butterfly, right?
Yeah. All right. Multiple choice. Which of these events is not a real event? 400 individual medley, 200 butterfly, 4x200 medley relay, or the 100 backstroke?
Well, I know the 100 backstroke is. I'm going to go with your option number 3, the 4x200.
Ding, ding, ding. That's correct. You're doing way better than I thought. Thankfully, there is no 4x200 medley relay. That would be brutal.
Just when in doubt, everybody, just give it a good guess.
Okay. Last question. How many individual world records does Michael Phelps currently hold today?
Ugh. World records, not gold medals.
Individual world records.
Oh man, uh, I'm way gonna be off on that one. 20.
Okay, now you are way off,
You are
but
way off.
I'll give you a bonus. Uh, there's a difference between an individual world record, meaning it's just you and Elaine, or a relay with 3 teammates, right? So an individual, Rowdy, do you know how many does Michael currently hold individually? 0. Every
What?
single world record has been broken. And that is no slouch on Michael because he changed the sport. He was the greatest of all time. I would still consider him the greatest of all time. But that is a testament to what Rowdy and I were blabbing on about earlier of just how incomprehensibly fast this sport has become. Rowdy,
That's
do you have
crazy.
anything to add on that?
He still has a world record though.
He does.
never-
He has 2 world records on relays.
that's right.
The 4x100 from Beijing and the 4x200, I think from Beijing. It might have been from London, but I don't remember. And maybe not London.
That's crazy.
He only has 2
I
relay
think
world
the
records.
800 free relay is from Rome.
Oh, that's right.
2009.
09.
I think
Probably.
I don't know. That's a good question, but I think he does.
When he was in his prime, how many did he have though? Like he was in the Olympics winning gold medals.
He had 8. At his prime, he had half of the world records of all swimming events. There were 16 swimming events. He had 8 of them.
Well, hold on, Rowdy. Are you counting relays in that?
Yeah.
8 total?
Yeah.
I thought he had more than that in short course too. No, okay, I'm wrong.
No,
Wow.
he never swam short course meters. Never had a world record in short course meters.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so he had the
pretty impressive.
200 free, 200 and 400 IM. He had the 100 200 butterfly and 3 relays. 8.
That's incredible. Okay, so you actually did pretty well. You got 3 out of 5, which is pretty incredible.
Passing grade.
I thought he got 4 out of 5. He just didn't get the last one. You gave him the 14-meter one.
He didn't get the 1, 2. I'm reading my own show notes, which is something Jared never has. No, he didn't. He did not get the strokes, and he did not get the world record. So he had 3 out of 5.
Oh,
He said
right.
backstroke.
He missed the butterfly. Yeah.
Okay, Rowdy, based on how Jared performed, I'm a little concerned for you because these are going to be things that every pool pro should be able to answer. But since you're not in pool care, I don't expect you're going to be able to answer many of them. But
I can tell you right now, it's going to be. I'm going to dig a big goose egg here. But go ahead.
All right. Name 3 types of chlorine used in swimming pools. Like 3 chlorine products. How can you buy chlorine? There's multiple different forms of chlorine. Name 3 of them.
3 chlorine, like shock?
Yeah, but like what would be, a lot of people call something shock, but what types of shock?
I have no idea, dude. Bromine?
Do you know one?
I mean,
well, bromine's a sanitizer. I might give you that. That's not a chlorine, but
close enough.
What form could you get chlorine in? Can you get it in dry?
Liquid, tablets, and granules.
There you go. Close enough. No, we don't need specific products, but yes, you can get it in liquids. You can get it in tablets. You used to be able to get it in gas, but not very often anymore. Name the chemical that protects chlorine from sunlight degradation.
Name the type of chlorine.
It's not a type of chlorine. Name the chemical that protects chlorine from sunlight degradation. Would you like some multiple choice?
Yeah.
Sulfuric acid,
Yeah.
cyanuric acid, or sodium bisulfate?
You are kidding. It's one of those?
Yeah, it's one of those.
And you thought that dude.
In fairness, I didn't think any of you were going to get any of these correct. I thought this was going to be great.
What size an Olympic pool is, and you're asking me sulfuric acid?
I thought this would be fun.
You got sulfuric acid. I have no freaking idea.
Cyanuric acid.
Rowdy is clearly not a pool guy.
Okay, wait a second. I have never heard of the word sulfuric acid.
Okay, there's another word. He used a very technical word here. He should have said stabilizer.
Yeah, it's stabilizer or conditioner. Oh my word, this is kind of fun.
Keep going.
Okay, name 1 type of secondary disinfection system. I will give you multiple choice.
Okay.
Chlorine dioxide, UV light.
Oh, it's UV light.
Oh, well, you already got it. Okay.
Oh, that was a slam dunk there.
Without the multiple choice, I wouldn't have gotten.
Well, here is another multiple choice, and this is 4 out of 5, okay? Which of these chemicals is not used in swimming pools in the United States? Calcium chloride, sodium hypochlorite, sodium bicarbonate, and chlorine dioxide. Rowdy hates me so much for this.
I'll say sodium bicarbonate.
Close. That's baking soda. That's actually used to raise alkalinity in swimming pools. Jared, which of those 4 is not used in pools?
You do not want to use chlorine dioxide. That'd be a little bit of a wreck.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to use that? I mean, I don't even know what it is.
It would oxidize your skin. They use it in wastewater treatment. They use it in drinking water treatment sometimes, and they degas it. And I'm learning about that right now with
It's
some
a
of the
wicked
industries.
oxidizer.
The last thing, can you name one product that Orenda manufactures and sells? Because we never talk about our products on here. So let's see if you know any. Oh, he's Googling it.
All I know is Orenda is an amazing company.
What a politician. This is great.
Exactly. I'm playing the point politician. And I've always admired the people that work for that company and what they've been able to provide for all their communities around the country and around the world.
Wow.
Fair.
What a hero. Okay.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, Rowdy, it's been an honor to have you on here. As fun as that was for me, I had a great time. This is different from what we normally do. Much like what you do in the sport of swimming, you're explaining swimming and bringing that passion of something people don't know what they're looking at. We try to do the same thing with advanced chemistry and distill it so a homeowner can understand it, that a pool pro that may not understand the chemistry of it can actually use it and make a living. And that's really the purpose of this podcast. And I appreciate you bringing insight into the sport. Hopefully, it gets more people to watch in Paris. And by the way, when do you leave for Paris?
The 17th of July.
Wow, that's about when this episode's going to come out. So we're recording this
cool.
a week and a half in
Eric,
advance.
and I will promote it or put it out there or whatever. Let me know. I'd like to share it, and we'll share it through PHTA and Step Into Swim as well.
Well, very cool. Is there anything else you want to address and bring up to our audience? And
get Jared a swimsuit and get his ass in the water.
You know what? I was so sore the following day after I did that open swim, and I was like, "This is probably one of the best workouts I've had," and I can't remember when. And I was like, "I'm going to do this." I never got around to it, but seriously, it is a workout that
it is.
Man, I wish I could do that more often.
Well, you can. You own a pool. Well,
can.
Guys, it has been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for your time. And
thanks, buddy.
Go help Team USA win some medals in Paris. We really look forward to watching and hearing you bring that passion. So Thank you all. Another great guest with Rowdy Gaines. If you have any questions or comments and feedback from this, you know how to reach me. It's podcast@orendatech.com. Jared, anything you want to add?
Nope. Remember, if you enjoyed this episode and you want to know more information, please follow up with Rowdy at the website. Donate, obviously. And thank you for being on here, Rowdy. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Enzyme water cleaner.
Hey! All right. You got to love the Google machine. Hey, one last thing before we go. We are close to breaking a milestone here. We're not going to tell you what the number is unless it happens. But if you do not already subscribe to this podcast, take a moment on your phone, push the subscribe button in the top corner, depending on the app you have. It really help us out. We are trying to get to a milestone of subscribers, and we will announce when it happens, because we've been saying we're trying to get to 300 listeners, but it's not quite 300. But if we hit that milestone, we're going to have an episode about it. And we want to thank all of you listeners for it. Take care, everyone. I'm your host, Eric Knight with Orenda and Hassa, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Rule Your Pool, a podcast by Orenda Technologies. For more information on what we discussed in this week's episode, check the links in the description or visit www.orendatech.com.
I hope you find this show valuable enough that you tap that subscribe button and share it with your friends. You can also like us on Facebook and social media. With our help, you'll be able to rule your pool without overtreating it with chemicals and wasting money. I'll see you next episode.